liked a lot of things, but I think off the bat is the ability to make some plays down the field. And, Dez's poise in the pocket. And, I know it's a little bit different when you're not going to be hit, but there's still a lot of action going on. And, to see his poise in there and to take some shots down the field and to see some guys come up with some big plays, that's what it's going to take. Not all of them were, big down the field, uncontested throws. There's a lot of contested throws tonight, too, that I think that is something that we were really wanting to see if we could do and make. And I'm really happy to see some of those.
You're always looking for receivers to step forward, and speaking to what you were just talking about, 4 different guys caught deep balls tonight, so it looks like they're kind of rising to the
and that's what we wanted to see, that they have the ability. And kind of towards the end, I even said, hey, we got to throw the football. I know the offense is way up, and you would normally just pound the ball, but I want to make sure that we're smart with it. We can take those shots. We know what the situations are, but also to give those guys on the outside some opportunities to make some of those contested plays, to take some of those shots down the field. You got to build your confidence in a lot of different ways, and it takes opportunities to get the ball thrown at you, even dropping a few, to still build some of those things that we got to build. And I tell you, I was excited about what I saw tonight.
Malik Vann had several sacks, or whatever you would call it, in that format, but he was in the backfield a lot.
I think he did a good job, and to see him continue to go, I think that's sometimes the thing defensively. I try to, it makes it frustrating and tough. You think you got a sack and you don't. Really, what we're trying to do is to challenge him a little bit mentally. We know, and the great thing is they got a lot of respect for those guys back there. And sometimes in your first year, not that they didn't have respect for the quarterback, but you get a little overzealous, and what Dez has done and what Ben done and what Jake has done, you feel really comfortable about letting them go in some of these situations. Malik and some of those guys, that they still have the ability to be aggressive, but be smart when they get around that red jersey.
You had the luxury, Jed, you had the luxury of a backup quarterback last year in Hayden that had starting experience. How about Ben and Jake? Because they both had their moments.
And I think that was one of the big things coming out of spring. We said we want to really challenge ourselves to find that backup, to give those guys an opportunity to go out there and compete, not just to find out who the backup might be, but also to put some pressure on Dez. He's a kid that loves pressure. He's a kid that loves to compete. And the more those guys do, the more they'll push him. And in return, it's really tough to go through a season with just one guy.
We've seen it more and more throughout the spring on Alex Pierce. Is this great to see him under the lights really come out like he did?
Yeah, and to have some of those shots, and not just the shots down the field that everybody notices, but some of those contested late digs, late things that you got to just battle through some contact. He's one of those guys that in the last 3 or 4 practices that you've seen not just make big plays down the field, not just the contested catches, but battle through contact, because you're not going to not get touched. There's very few times where you just get off coverage and you don't get some type of bump. And I think that you're seeing the strength of some of those guys after being in the program for a couple years show up on the football field. And I mean that playing through contact that you don't always talk about with wide receivers.
Is that what's important for him? Because there hasn't been a guy to take the top off the defense consistently, but you can only do that if you can do the other stuff, right?
And I think that's the thing. If you have the ability to not just be the guy that can run by people, because people can play off and they can do different things. But when you have a mixture, you have some balance. He's a guy that can run it. He's a guy that can play through contact. And if you're a guy that can take the top off, but yet you can still catch hitches and turn them into big things and catch slants, now they can't just play you off. And so I think the balance is what we still got two practices left here to continue to build the things that we have an opportunity to build. But I think it was really good for us tonight to see some of those whiteouts, Alec Pierce being one of them, to really make some plays, not just down the field, but contested and through contact.
Encouraging to see Cole Smith drill 3 field goals, including 2 from 40 plus.
Yeah, we were trying to find a way to, even there at the end, to say, hey, this is for all the marbles. But I really try to evaluate not just, do they make them, but really what does it look like? What is the operation? What does the ball look like? And I think that's where you're happiest to see. It wasn't just like some balls were squeaking through. I mean, they were well hit. They could have been good from a lot deeper. And I think that does nothing but build the confidence, and that's all it takes for him.